Jungkook walked past Jimin without speaking. That silence broke the entire room. "You saw it too, didn't you?" Taehyung whispered, eyes fixed on the hallway like it was a crime scene. The fluorescent lights above buzzed, flickering ever so slightly. A moment ago, Jungkook had walked into the practice room, chest heaving, jaw clenched, his presence thunderous in its silence. Every step echoed like a verdict. Then he walked past Jimin. Did not look. Did not nod. Did not even breathe in his direction. And in that 1 second, less than a heartbeat, the air changed. It was as if the temperature dropped, as if the mirrored walls trembled under the weight of something ancient and unspoken. Jimin's knuckles tightened around the water bottle in his hand until the plastic crackled. His eyes, wide and hollow, never left Jungkook's back. The silence wasn't absence, it was presence, heavy, charged. Something had broken, not something, everything. No one said a word. Yoongi, leaning against the far wall with a towel over his head, slowly removed one earpiece. Namjoon shifted his weight uneasily, opening his mouth to speak, then closing it again. Even the music that had been blaring moments ago seemed to have the sense to stop. Only Jungkook moved, toward the far end of the room, where he dropped his gym bag like it was just another day, rolled his shoulders, and pulled his hoodie over his head. He still hadn't looked at Jimin. Jimin, on the other hand, didn't move. His body was stiff, but his eyes flickered with something raw. Anger, hurt, fear, it was hard to tell. The perfect facade he wore in front of cameras cracked slightly, just enough for those paying attention to see the boy underneath. The boy who had once laughed too loudly, danced too hard, loved too deeply. Taehyung swallowed. "What happened?" he whispered again, but no one answered. Because they all knew. Or thought they knew. A month ago, things had been different. Jungkook and Jimin were inseparable, practicing together until dawn, whispering in backstage corners, exchanging those rare smiles that spoke in languages only they understood. Until Buen. No one knew what had happened during that 3-day retreat. They left together, laughing, and came back distant, fractured. Jungkook stopped texting. Jimin stopped asking. Their choreography lost its edge. Harmonies sounded mechanical. Something spiritual had been gutted. Now, in the silence of this practice room, that fracture had become undeniable. "Let's warm up," Jungkook said suddenly, his voice low and razor-sharp. He didn't wait, just started stretching, methodical, controlled. Jimin blinked. Then slowly, he moved too. But every motion between them now seemed ghosted, like two planets orbiting the same sun, but destined never to touch again. The practice began, movements precise, expressions neutral, but it was like watching two shadows that had once belonged to something human. During a break, Namjoon finally spoke. "We need to talk," he said, tone careful, directed at no one and everyone. "No," Jungkook said without turning. "You're not okay," Namjoon pressed. "This group is not okay." "I'm fine." But Jimin finally looked up and met Jungkook's eyes. "Are you?" Jungkook's jaw flexed. For one split second, something slipped, a flicker of guilt, of pain, and then it was gone. "I said I'm fine," he said, then walked out, leaving the door to slam shut behind him. This time, Jimin didn't just stand still. He sat down, quietly, almost gently, like the energy had finally left his bones. "I can't keep pretending," he whispered. Yoongi crossed the room and sat beside him. "You don't have to," he said. Outside the practice room, the hallway stretched in sterile silence. Jungkook leaned against the wall, fists clenched at his sides, chest rising and falling like he'd just outrun a nightmare. He didn't cry, didn't scream, but he wanted to. Because that silence, the one in the room, was nothing compared to the silence inside his own head. The things he'd seen, the choices he'd made. The secret he couldn't tell. And the boy he couldn't stop loving. Even if it broke them both. "You think I'm the villain now?" Jimin's voice echoed off the studio walls, raw, guttural. "Then say it, Jungkook." The door had slammed shut only seconds ago, but Jungkook was already turning back, his eyes wild, chest rising and falling like he was drowning in something thicker than air. They stood face to face now, in the middle of the corridor, where cameras didn't reach and words cut deeper than silence ever could. "Don't do this here," Jungkook muttered, glancing around, but his voice cracked halfway through the sentence. "Not in front of them." "Why not?" Jimin stepped closer. Too close. The kind of close they used to reserve for stolen moments backstage, for whispered confessions, for touches that meant more than any song ever could. "You didn't seem to care about them when you walked past me like I was nothing." "You are nothing," Jungkook snapped. Silence. Regret. But the words were already hanging in the air, poisoned and irreversible. Jimin didn't flinch, didn't cry, just stared. "Then why?" he said slowly, his voice trembling. "Do you look at me like that when you think no one sees?" Jungkook opened his mouth, then closed it again. "You're such a goddamn liar," Jimin whispered, and this time his voice broke, just a little. Inside the practice room, the rest of the group was frozen in a performance that wasn't choreographed. Taehyung sat rigid, eyes fixed on the floor. Yoongi had taken his usual place at the window, arms folded but jaw clenched. Namjoon kept packing, fingers twitching like they wanted to rewrite the scene but couldn't find the words. "They need to talk," Jin said finally, softly, "even if it burns everything." "It already is," Taehyung murmured. Outside, the confrontation was unraveling. "You don't know what I saw that night," Jungkook said, quieter now, barely audible but sharp enough to wound. "You think this is about us, about feelings." Jimin stepped back, finally. "If it's not about us, then why do you look like you're about to fall apart every time I'm near?" "Because you don't get it," Jungkook hissed, suddenly louder, desperate. "You left me alone in that room, Jimin. You said you'd be right back and then you disappeared, for hours, and when I found you." He stopped, he looked away. "You don't want me to say it, do you?" Jungkook asked bitterly. "Because then we'll all have to live with the truth." Jimin blinked. "I was trying to protect you." "You lied to me." "I had to." "You touched him." Jimin's breath caught. The hallway felt too small, too bright, too loud. It was the first time anyone had said it aloud. The name didn't need to be spoken. They both knew. That night in Buen, that rooftop, that fire in Jimin's eyes when he thought no one was watching, the flash of another silhouette. The way Jungkook had stood in the rain, waiting, only to find. "No," Jimin said, "it wasn't like that." "Then what was it?" Jungkook demanded. Jimin's eyes welled. "It was a mistake. I panicked. He said you didn't care, that you'd already left, that it was over. I didn't know what to believe." "And you believed him," Jungkook's voice broke fully now. "Not me." "I believed what I saw," Jimin whispered. "You were gone. I waited too, you know. I stood in that room for hours before I left." "Then why didn't you come back?" "Because I saw you with her." Jungkook staggered a step back like he'd been struck. "No," he said, "you didn't." "You were holding her hand," Jimin said. "You smiled." Jungkook looked stricken, hollowed. "She was my cousin." "Oh." They stared at each other, two ghosts clinging to old versions of themselves. "I came to find you that night," Jungkook said. "I searched every bar, every back alley, every rooftop, and when I found you..." Jimin covered his mouth with a shaking hand. "I didn't know." "You didn't ask," Jungkook replied, voice ragged. The silence now was a different kind of heavy, grief, not anger, regret, not blame. Then came footsteps. Namjoon appeared, arms tense, eyes flicking between them. "I don't care what this is about. Whatever happened in Buen, whatever broke you two, you need to figure out if you're going to destroy this group in the process." "We're not," Jimin started. "You are," Namjoon cut in. "And you know it. You think we haven't noticed the rehearsals, the interviews. We're all pretending nothing's wrong while you two are bleeding under the surface." "No one asked you to get involved," Jungkook muttered. "I'm the leader," Namjoon snapped. "It's my job." "Then lead," Jimin said coldly. "Don't pick sides." Namjoon stared at him, then at Jungkook. "I'm not," he said finally. But if you two don't fix this, someone else will, and not in a way any of us want. Behind him, Jin was standing now. You have 3 hours until the press conference. Figure it out. They left. The door closed. And for the first time since Busan, Jungkook and Jimin were truly alone. Jungkook sat down slowly, back against the wall, dragging a hand through his hair. I was going to tell you, he said. I was going to tell you too, Jimin whispered, sitting beside him. But I thought, if you knew what I did, you'd never look at me the same way again. I never stopped, Jungkook said. They sat in silence, the kind that didn't break a room, but held it together. For now. You kissed him, didn't you? The words slipped from Jungkook's mouth like venom, low and steady, not shouted but whispered with the precision of a blade pressed to skin. The two of them were still seated on the cold floor of the corridor, knees almost touching, breaths fogging up the space between them, but the warmth from their shared history had long disappeared. Jimin flinched. I said it was a mistake. That's not an answer. Jimin didn't speak. He stared at the floor, jaw clenched, fingers trembling slightly as if they remembered the weight of something they weren't supposed to hold. Jungkook waited, not because he wanted to hear it, but because he couldn't move forward without knowing. The truth, the whole of it. Yes, Jimin finally admitted. I kissed him. Jungkook laughed, short, bitter. Was he better? Don't, Jimin warned. Was he softer with you? Did he call you by your name like I did, or? I said don't, Jimin snapped, turning to him. I'm not going to stand here and let you turn my guilt into your sport. Jungkook's face twisted. You think I'm playing? No, I think you're trying not to bleed, so you're cutting me instead. The silence that followed was sharper than any scream. A pair of staff walked past, pretending not to see them. The hallway was growing colder, or maybe it was just them, stripped raw under the weight of unsaid things. Regrets turned into grenades, every glance a landmine. He said you loved him once, Jimin said, voice quiet. Jungkook blinked. Who? You know who. You believed him again. I believed the way your voice sounded when you said his name. Minhyun was a lie, Jungkook spat. Everything he told you, everything he showed you, it was orchestrated. He wanted to break us. Jimin tilted his head, eyes narrow. So it's true, he meant something to you. Jungkook didn't respond. That was the only confirmation Jimin needed. I wasn't the only one keeping secrets, Jimin said. And the truth is, I would have forgiven you, even if it was him, even if it was more than a kiss. You think this is about forgiveness? Jungkook stood now, packing. This is about trust. You left me without a word. Do you know what that does to someone? When the person you've built your entire goddamn universe around vanishes and reappears with someone else's taste on their lips. Jimin stood too, fire rising in his voice. And do you know what it does to someone to feel second choice? To hear you say one thing but watch you drift further and further away every day. You were never second. You made me feel like it. They were too loud now. The walls could hear. Maybe the cameras were already rolling from a corner they hadn't noticed. It didn't matter. The wounds were open, and neither had the strength to close them yet. Down the hall, Taehyung had pressed his ear to the wall. They're going to destroy each other, he murmured to Yoongi, who sat cross-legged beside him, eyes cold, unreadable. Or they'll finally say what they've been too scared to say, Yoongi replied. Sometimes the only way out is through fire. Back in the corridor, the fire burned. I was scared, Jimin said, more softly now, of what it meant to need you the way I did, of what it meant to love you and wonder if you loved me the same. I did, Jungkook said. Jimin turned to him. I still do. Those 3 words sucked the oxygen from the space between them. Jimin's face crumbled, just for a second, before he caught himself. You have a hell of a way of showing it. I didn't know how to fight for you when I thought you'd already left. I didn't know how to stay when I didn't even recognize who we were anymore. Their phones buzzed synchronously, the group chat. Jin's message, 10 minutes to the press conference. Move. They didn't move. Jungkook stared at his screen, then at Jimin. We go out there and pretend. Jimin laughed bitterly. Isn't that what we've always done? Jungkook's eyes narrowed. You know what's worse than betrayal? Jimin waited. Regret, Jungkook said, because it eats you alive and you can't blame anyone but yourself. The tension shifted, slower, sadder. Do you regret me? Jimin asked. Jungkook looked at him for a long time. No, he said, but I regret who we became. The hallway was quiet now. Only the distant hum of fluorescent lights remained. Jimin nodded once, lips pressed tight. Come on, he said. Let's lie to the world together, one last time. They walked down the hall in tandem, not touching, not talking. Just two shadows stretched long by the weight of memory and the press lights waiting to blind them. Inside the conference room, cameras clicked like gunfire. Questions fired off. How's the group dynamic? Any personal challenges during the new album? Fans have noticed some tension. Jungkook smiled like he was carved from marble. Jimin laughed like he hadn't cried in weeks. Namjoon did the talking, shielding them as always. But the eyes of the world were watching, and behind those smiles, under the perfect lighting and sculpted words, something more dangerous than scandal was forming. Truth. And it was tired of hiding. You looked like strangers up there. The door slammed behind them as soon as they entered the green room. The press conference had ended, but the tension still clung to their clothes like smoke. Jungkook ripped off his mic pack, fingers trembling with rage that had nowhere to go. You think I had a choice? He shot back, voice sharp enough to slice through the air. You think I wanted to smile like everything was fine? Jimin threw his mic onto the couch and turned around. Then, why did you? Why do you keep performing this perfect version of us instead of actually talking to me? Oh, that's rich, Jungkook laughed bitterly. The guy who ran away from the truth now wants to talk. Because I need to, okay, Jimin snapped. I need to say it out loud or I'm going to explode. You already did that when you kissed him. Jimin flinched again, and something in his face changed, like a window slammed shut inside his chest. Stop using that as a weapon every time you don't have the balls to admit your own part in this. You want my part? Jungkook stepped closer, jaw clenched. Fine. I watched you fall for him in slow motion while pretending I was enough. I listened to you whisper things to me at night and knew they weren't true anymore. I kissed you knowing your mouth still tasted like guilt. That's my part. Jimin's eyes turned glassy, but his voice was sharp. You were distant long before Busan. You stopped looking at me like I was yours. You buried yourself in rehearsals, in the gym, in every goddamn excuse just to avoid feeling something real. I was scared I'd lose you. You did, Jimin said, his voice low, trembling. But not because of Minhyun. You lost me because you stopped fighting. I never stopped, Jungkook growled. You just started pushing harder than I could hold on. Then why didn't you say something? Jimin's voice cracked. Why did you just let me spiral? Why did you watch me fall apart and pretend not to see it? Because I was falling too, Jungkook exploded. But no one catches me, Jimin. No one ever has. The silence that followed was crushing. The other members waited in the hallway, frozen in place. They weren't supposed to hear this, but the walls weren't thick enough to contain the truth anymore. Then, a voice broke the tension. You two are idiots. Yoongi entered the room, his expression unreadable, arms folded. You think you're the only ones hurting, he said, stepping forward. You think your little soap opera hasn't been ripping this group apart from the inside. This isn't your, Jimin started. Shut up, Yoongi snapped. You're going to listen now. Jimin's mouth clamped shut. I've watched you two orbit each other like you're the sun and moon, like you're everything and nothing to each other all at once, Yoongi said. And while you're up there imploding, the rest of us are down here, holding pieces of a legacy you're too busy burning. That's not fair, Jungkook muttered. Isn't it? Yoongi took a step closer, his voice cold. Because while you're drowning in your guilt and heartbreak and pride, we've been the ones doing damage control. We've been lying to the press, smoothing over fan theories, pretending your broken choreography was an artistic choice. Neither Jimin nor Jungkook could look at him. I don't care who kissed who. I don't care what happened in Busan, Yoongi continued. I care about this team. I care about the music, the message, the fans who still cry at our shows because we gave them something to believe in. Then maybe we should disband, Jimin said suddenly, quietly. Yoongi stopped. Maybe it's already over, Jimin continued, eyes locked on Jungkook. Maybe we're just pretending because we're afraid to be alone. Jungkook's face twisted in disbelief. You'd really throw it all away. No, Jimin whispered, but I'm afraid you already did. Taehyung stepped into the room next, slowly, cautiously. Guys. Jin followed, his usual humor absent from his face. You're not the only ones who have bled for this dream. Namjoon walked in last, holding a folder, documents from management, press schedules, flight itineraries, 100 details of the machine still turning behind them. You want to end it, Namjoon said, voice calm but firm. Then say it, right here, to all of us, because we deserve to know whether we're going to war for something that's already dead. Jungkook looked at Jimin. Jimin looked at the floor. No one spoke. Then Jungkook took a shaky breath. I don't want to lose this. I don't want to lose you. Jimin's eyes met his. But I don't know how to fix it, Jungkook added. Jimin's voice cracked. Then let's stop trying to fix it. Let's just be honest for once. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a folded photo, faded and soft at the edges. It was of the two of them years ago. A backstage moment, sweaty and smiling, Jungkook holding Jimin's hand, not for the cameras but because he wanted to. I kept it, Jimin said, even after everything. Jungkook took it carefully, like it might burn him. Yoongi exhaled. You both have until tomorrow. Either you figure this out, or we go into that studio and tell Bang PD the truth. What truth? Taehyung asked. That the heart of BTS stopped beating months ago, Yoongi replied. The room emptied slowly, leaving just Jimin and Jungkook again. But this time there was no screaming, no accusations. Just two people holding a memory between them, wondering if it could be enough. Outside, rain began to fall. And somewhere in Seoul, a video clip was being uploaded, leaked from a fan's hidden camera. A moment from the hallway. A single sentence overheard. You kissed him, didn't you? By morning, the entire world would hear it. It hit like a tidal wave. By sunrise, the hashtag had already reached global trending. You kissed him. Fans around the world were dissecting a 7-second audio clip that had no video, no context, and yet enough fire to set the internet ablaze. You kissed him, didn't you? Those 5 words had escaped from a private confrontation, but now they belonged to everyone. Speculations exploded. Comment sections turned into war zones. News outlets reworded the scandal every hour. The fandom fractured, some defending, others demanding answers. Every breath they took was under scrutiny. Every second of silence was twisted into guilt. Jungkook stared at the screen like it might blink first. Jimin hadn't even touched his phone. He sat motionless on the couch in their dorm's common room, hoodie pulled low, thumb pressed against the spot on his lip where it always trembled when he was afraid. He didn't speak, didn't move, just listened as the world dismantled the parts of him he hadn't even figured out yet. Namjoon stood in front of the television, arms crossed. He looked like he'd aged 10 years overnight. We need to issue a statement. No, Jungkook said immediately, hoarse. Then what? Stay quiet and let them crucify you. Let them, Jimin whispered. Everyone turned to look at him. I don't care anymore, he said. They want a villain, fine, make me the villain. That's not fair, Jungkook muttered. Jimin turned his head, finally meeting his eyes. Isn't it? You got to keep your silence. You got to keep your secrets. I just made the mistake of feeling something at the wrong time. Don't twist this like I didn't feel it too. You buried it. Because I didn't want to lose everything, Jungkook said, voice rising. Do you think I enjoyed hiding what we were, what I felt? You chose to hide, Jimin snapped. And now we're both exposed, but only one of us is bleeding. Yoongi walked in, tossing a newspaper onto the table. The front page headline screamed. BTS internal love triangle. You have 3 hours before we're summoned to the label, he said. You should figure out your story. There's no story, Jungkook said. Then they'll write one for you, Yoongi replied. And trust me, they won't be kind. The group dispersed, tension trailing behind them like a storm cloud. Jungkook remained, so did Jimin. Jungkook finally sat, keeping a distance between them, as if closeness might detonate something they couldn't rebuild. Why didn't you tell them it was me? Jimin asked after a long silence. In the hallway when Yoongi asked, you could have let it all fall on me. You had every right. Because I still care, Jungkook said. Even when I hate you, I still care. Jimin let out a soft, bitter laugh. You're still protecting me. I don't know how not to. I don't want your pity, Jungkook. It's not pity, he snapped. It's love, damn it. The kind that doesn't die just because someone made a mistake. Jimin looked at him, really looked at him. Then why didn't you fight for me? I'm fighting now. Too late. Jungkook's jaw tightened. You keep saying that like you want me to give up. Is that what you want? I want the truth, Jimin said, voice shaking. Not from the label, not from PR, from you. Jungkook closed his eyes, then opened them slowly, like the weight of his next words might crush the floor beneath them. The truth is, I never stopped loving you, even when I saw you with him, even when I wanted to throw things, even now when I can barely look at you without remembering the betrayal. I still wake up and reach for you like you're still mine. Jimin swallowed, throat tight, and if I said I regretted it every day, then I'd believe you. And if I said I kissed him because I was broken, not because I wanted him, then I'd believe that too. Tears threatened at the corners of Jimin's eyes. Why do you still believe in me? Because I know what it feels like to hate yourself enough to destroy the things you love. The door opened with a sharp knock. Taehyung poked his head in. They're ready for us. The van ride to the label was silent. Cameras lined the streets outside the dorms, fans pressed against barricades, their faces blurred by the glass, but their screams cutting through like sirens. Inside the label's main conference room, the mood was anything but forgiving. Bang PD stood at the head of the table, eyes cold, lips pressed in a line that dared anyone to speak out of turn. Legal advisors sat beside him. PR reps flanked the walls. Jin, Yoongi, Taehyung, and Namjoon formed a quiet barricade at the other end of the room. This is a disaster, Bang PD said. No one argued. We built an empire on unity, on the illusion of invincibility. And now, the entire world thinks you're sleeping with each other and stabbing each other in the back. It wasn't an illusion, Namjoon said carefully. Bang PD shot him a look. Then explain why the 2 youngest members of this group are currently setting fire to everything we built. Jungkook sat up straighter. Don't blame the group for our mistake. Oh, it's a mistake now, Jimin cut in. Bang PD held up a hand. Enough. He turned to the legal team. We need options. Silencing the scandal is off the table, one of them said. It's too big, but if we release a unified statement denying romantic involvement. I won't lie, Jimin interrupted. Then we terminate the contract, the legal rep replied flatly. The room froze. Bang PD's voice was like ice. You understand what that means? I do, Jimin said, standing. Sit down, Jungkook said sharply. Jimin didn't. You want to be a martyr, Jungkook hissed. You think sacrificing yourself is noble. I think it's the only honest thing left. Jungkook stood too. Then I go with you. No, Jimin said. You still have a future here. I don't want it without you. Bang PD slammed a fist on the table. You're not Romeo and Juliet. You're idols. Act like it. Jin rose slowly, voice calm. If you force them to lie, the fans will know. They always do. Namjoon added, but if they speak with honesty, even if it's ugly, they'll respect the truth more than the illusion. Silence filled the room. Then Jungkook spoke, firm and clear. Give us 24 hours. We'll go live, our words, our truth, no script. Bang PD's stare was lethal. One misstep, and you'll both be finished. Then we finish on our terms, Jimin said. The room erupted in quiet chaos, but somewhere in that noise, a shift occurred. The truth had slipped through the cracks. Outside, the world was waiting. And for the first time, Jimin and Jungkook were ready to speak, together. The countdown on the screen read 30 seconds. 30 seconds until they would go live in front of the world. No managers, no editors, no PR team lurking in the corners. Just 2 chairs, 2 microphones, 1 camera, and every secret they had left hanging by a thread. Jungkook could hear his own pulse louder than the soft ambient music playing in the background. He rubbed his palms together, then wiped them on his jeans, only to realize they were already damp with sweat. Jimin sat beside him, back straight, legs crossed, still and unreadable, except for the way his fingers kept twitching against the seam of his pants. It was always his fingers that gave him away. "You okay?" Jungkook asked quietly, eyes still on the blinking light above the camera. Jimin didn't look at him. "No." "Me neither." The light turned green. They were live. Jimin inhaled first. "Hi." The word sounded too soft, too human, like a ghost of everything they'd rehearsed in their minds but never said out loud. Jungkook followed with his own, quieter hi, and then the silence returned, not heavy but tense, electric. "We're not going to read from a statement," Jimin said, eyes now focused on the lens. "We're not here to spin or lie. We're here because we owe you the truth." Jungkook nodded. "You deserve honesty, even if it's uncomfortable." The chat exploded in real time, fans begging for answers, offering support, throwing accusations, crying, threatening. Jimin didn't flinch. Jungkook barely blinked. They had been preparing for this war since the moment the hallway clip went viral. "I kissed someone," Jimin said, calm but clear. "And it was Jungkook." He paused. No dramatics, no excuses. "It was a mistake. I was lost, confused, and hurting. I thought I had already been left behind. I thought Jungkook had moved on." Jungkook turned toward him, the edge of his jaw tightening. "I didn't," Jungkook said, his voice low, rough. "I was still right there, waiting." More comments now. A blur of disbelief, heartbreak, vindication. "And Jungkook didn't tell anyone," Jimin continued. "He protected me, even when I didn't deserve it." Jungkook's jaw clenched harder. "Don't say that. You don't get to decide whether or not you deserved kindness." "You never yelled," Jimin whispered, looking at him now. "Not once, even when you had every reason to." "I was afraid if I said anything, I'd say the wrong thing and lose you completely." The emotion was thick between them. Jungkook's voice trembled, but he didn't stop. "We've been together for a long time, more than a decade, but somewhere along the way we stopped being honest, with ourselves, with each other. We didn't know how to be," Jimin said. "Because love isn't part of the contract, because feelings are dangerous in an industry that sells perfection." Jungkook laughed softly, bitter. "And we were anything but perfect." A silence settled, and Jimin finally leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "There were feelings between us, still are. That stopped the world." "I loved him," Jimin said. Present tense. Past tense, it didn't matter, everyone heard it. "And I loved him," Jungkook echoed. "Still do." The chat exploded. Words were flying too fast to read now, but the room itself had gone still, suspended in the kind of hush that only honesty can bring. No illusions, no fanservice, no damage control. Only truth. "I didn't kiss Minhyun because I wanted him," Jimin said, breathing harder now. "I kissed him because I hated myself, because I didn't know how to deal with everything I felt. I was scared to be loved the way Jungkook loved me." Jungkook stared at him, something shattered and soft in his expression. "And Jungkook," Jimin continued, "he kept carrying me, even when I broke everything we had." "I broke it too," Jungkook whispered. "I pulled away. I buried my emotions. I was too scared to say the words when they mattered. I should have fought harder." "So should I." They both went quiet again. A new kind of quiet, not angry, not cold, but heavy with everything they could never take back. "We know what this means," Jimin said to the camera. "We know what it costs." The label may drop us. The group may never be the same. Some of you may walk away, Jimin said. We won't blame you. But if we're going to fall, Jungkook added, we want it to be from a place of honesty. I'm sorry, Jimin said, eyes full and raw now. To the fans, to the members, to Jungkook, I'm sorry for lying, I'm sorry for being a coward. And I'm sorry too, Jungkook said, for being silent, for making you feel like you were alone in this. They turned to each other then, not as idols, not as performers, but as two people who had weathered something unspeakably human. Do you still love me? Jimin asked softly, so soft it felt like it wasn't meant for the camera. Jungkook didn't hesitate. Yes. The screen faded to black after that. No summary, no thank you for watching, just a heartbeat of silence. And then the noise returned. Within seconds, the broadcast was clipped, subtitled, analyzed. Hashtags split into factions. Some fans wept with relief, others screamed betrayal. The label's phone lines rang off the hook. News anchors struggled to hold back their personal opinions. Headlines blurred between bravery and career suicide. But within the chaos, something profound stirred. The world, for a fleeting moment, stopped talking about a scandal and started talking about truth. About what it meant to be human in a machine built for illusions. Back at the dorm, no one spoke. The members sat around the living room, like survivors of a fire that still smoldered in the walls. Whatever happens next, Namjoon said finally, we decide it together. Jungkook looked at Jimin. Jimin nodded. For the first time in a long time, they were aligned. And outside, as the rain turned to sun, a message appeared online. No headline, no marketing. Just 3 words posted on the group's official account. We're still here. The backlash came like they expected, ruthless, loud, and immediate. Sponsors withdrew. International broadcasts paused promotion. The label held emergency meetings for 72 hours straight, trying to measure the monetary cost of emotional truth. The executives wanted distance. The board wanted control. But the world had already changed. And so had they. On the 4th day, Jungkook and Jimin sat across from Bang PD in a room that used to terrify them. No one smiled. No one made jokes to ease the tension. You forced our hand, Bang PD said. We told the truth, Jungkook replied, steady. You broke the contract. We broke the illusion, Jimin corrected. Bang PD's lips thinned, but he said nothing for a long moment. Then, the board is split. Half want to sever ties quietly. Half think the backlash will fade if you lay low. And what do you think? Jimin asked, voice calm but tired. I think you're both reckless, Bang PD said. But I also think you reminded the world that idols are human. Jungkook held his breath. So here's the decision, Bang PD continued. You don't get dropped, but you don't get protected either. No scripted interviews, no staged apologies. From now on, whatever happens is yours to carry, fame or fallout. Fine, they both said, almost in unison. Because they had already made peace with the cost. The next performance wasn't a comeback stage. It was a fan meet in Seoul, one that had been scheduled long before the chaos, long before the hallway clip and the firestorm that followed. The label wanted to cancel it. The team voted against it. And so they stood there, not in elaborate costumes or high-production visuals, but in black hoodies and no makeup. Stripped down, bare, real. There was no opening VCR, no dance break. Just Jungkook and Jimin walking out side by side into a stadium full of people who had come, not because they knew what to expect, but because they didn't. The silence was suffocating at first. Then someone shouted, I love you. Then another. Then the chant grew, not in perfect fan chant rhythm, but raw, emotional, chaotic. We believe you. Jungkook bit his lip so hard it almost bled. Jimin turned away, brushing tears before they could fall. They looked at each other, nodded. And then they sang. No choreography, no performance mode, just voices, trembling but true. Notes that cracked in the cold but were met with warmth from thousands of people who saw them not as gods, but as boys who bled and loved and lost and dared to speak. The final song ended with silence. Then an ocean of lightsticks raised to the sky, like stars surrendering to gravity. Backstage, Yoongi hugged them first. "You did it," he whispered. "You tore it down and built something real." Namjoon followed, eyes shining. The world's loud, but truth is louder eventually. One by one, the members embraced them, not as bandmates, but as brothers. The kind who had seen each other fall apart and still stayed. That night, Jungkook and Jimin sat on the dorm rooftop like they used to. No cameras, no mics, just two souls and a sky that had always held their secrets. "I thought we'd lose everything," Jimin said quietly, resting his head on Jungkook's shoulder. "We didn't," Jungkook whispered. "We just lost the parts that weren't real." "Do you think they'll forgive us?" "They already did." Jimin closed his eyes. "I still have nightmares. I still wake up reaching for you." Jimin turned to him, voice barely audible. "Then keep reaching." Jungkook smiled softly, pulling him close. "I will." The night didn't end in confessions or grand gestures. No fireworks, no final twist. Just the quiet hum of healing and the certainty that love, real love, wasn't about perfection. It was about survival. It was about choosing each other again and again, even when the world handed you 1,000 reasons not to. And so they stayed. Still flawed, still complicated, but still here. Together,